Hi, everyone. My name is Cioffi. I came to Loyola knowing that I wanted to go to law school. So my experience was a little different. I actually became persuaded. Well, I thought maybe I didn't want to do that. So I came in knowing that I wanted to go and then taking classes. I thought maybe I wanted to do something different. And that's actually what led me to sociology. I thought in my junior year, I got a internship through the governor's summer internship, and I worked at GOCAP, the governor's office of crime control and prevention, and I was involved in evaluating a lot of their programs. So I worked on the opioid crisis, worked on justice reinvestment, and I also was able to evaluate some programs that were in the Maryland prisons. And I thought maybe I wanted to take more of like a policy approach to my career as opposed to doing litigation. Um, it was really a tough decision for me as I approached graduation to decide where I wanted to apply and what I wanted to do. Ultimately, I ended up going to law school. I went to Catholic in DC. I thought that I wanted to continue in like the criminal world. So I did a lot of work in the Innocence Project when I was in law school, which was a great experience. And I worked on three cases, all of which the people who are incarcerated are now out of prison. So it was a really rewarding and gratifying experience. Ultimately, I decided for my career that I practice family law now. The way I got there was I thought that I wanted to join the military because I wanted to get some hands-on litigation experience. That ended up just like not working out. And I ended up at a firm where I was working with service members directly and just like a general law firm, handling a bunch of different things. My background tended to lend itself more towards family law. So I ended up taking those cases and I really loved it. Um, I know a lot of lawyers don't say they love math, but I get to do math in my job every day. I do enjoy that. And I get to go to court, which I really enjoy. Um, what else did I do? I did take a little bit of a turn. I ended up taking three bar exams. So I'm licensed in three different states. And that was kind of like Allison said, maybe my crisis year. um, so I now practice in Maryland and Virginia, and I'm also licensed in New York. Um, and I love family law. Um, I don't have I think like my foundation from Loyola that was really helpful was being able to like jump into law school pretty seamlessly. I thought that the background that I got in the classes and then like the study habits that I developed were created like a strong foundation. So I think anyone who's considering grad school know that you're set up well to go there. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about any of that, I'm happy to elaborate further.
Do you have management issues related to bringing stuff home with family law?
Yes, I think I really like struggled with that initially because my clients come to me when they have like such personal issues and heightened emotions. And I, like Allison, was like very eager when I first started out. I wanted to help everyone. And throughout my career, I've realized that sometimes the best help that you can give someone is not necessarily being available every second. And it's not healthy for me because I need to be my best self to be able to give them advice. So, particularly in like the context of litigation, I've understood like I am part of a system, right? I'm zealously representing my client. I'm trying to do what's best for the children that I'm helping. but ultimately at the end of the day, like we have the system set up and like a judge is going to make a decision. And all I can control is, what I put on in the case. And there's certain things that I can't help. And just accepting that as opposed to continuously being like, I could have done this better, I could have done that. I think it's really healthy to have like self-reflection and growth moving forward, but just to not take it home is like what's so important. So, kind of like Matt said, I do rely on my supervisors. Um, I think that, sometimes in family law, there's things that happen that we always say, like, you just can't even make up, right? So having someone in your field to be able to talk to about that, I think is really helpful. And then I also think rely on like the stress relief that you have done before. Like, don't think, now that you have a job, like you should change everything in your life. Like, whatever's worked for you in the past is probably going to continue to work for you. So just making sure that you're in touch with like when you need to take the time for yourself and when you need to just take that self-care.
Molly, can you also talk about that since you were choosing a law school as well?
Yeah, I actually had a really similar approach. I wanted to be in DC and I went to Catholic because it was the school that offered me the most money. And um, that was like a big thing that was important to me. Um, and I thought just being in DC, I would have, the opportunities to look at policy and then also the opportunities to look at litigation. Um, so I can't say honestly that I did much more research than like apply. Like, I knew I wanted to apply to all of the DC schools, and this was just the one that worked out for me. I did look at like clinics, like Innocence Project really interests me, and they had that. Um, but it was very, very similar to Matt's experience.
Molly, would you speak then?
Yeah. I think the hardest part about my job is managing clients' expectations within like the bounds of like the rules of evidence and like what actually is admissible in court. So, in like a child custody case, a client might come to me and say, I have this great evidence and it's going to be so persuasive to the judge. But, realistically, how to make that evidence admissible is much more difficult. And like the persuasive effect that it's going to have on the judge sometimes is difficult to explain to your client that it's not going to be as persuasive as they think. And I think in child custody cases, particularly when, these are people's kids and they're obviously these issues are so close to home that explaining that we have to follow the rules of evidence is really difficult. And I think like just being able to like manage clients' expectations has helped me be successful in explaining to them like what we're actually going to be able to prove in court and how we're going to be able to prove that from the onset. And then in regards to like the beginning of my career, I think I found it really hard to set boundaries for myself with clients because a lot of these issues are happening like late at night, they're happening on the weekends, and like I wanted to be available. And we had talked about this with like burnout and just like having to take the time for yourself to make sure that you're the best that you can be. And about moving forward, I recently started this position about a year ago. So I'm pretty happy. I get to practice in Maryland and Virginia. So I'm hoping to stay for a while.